Yo, what's up? This is Jay Dennis with Talking NuMetal, and I'm back with Korn's second album, Life is Peachy. This is an insanely interesting album, not just because of Adidas, but because of my journey with how I grew to love it. Again, just like the first album, I got into it when I was in high school, so like 10 years ago. Upon initially hearing it, wait, hold up. I would say I got into this album. This might have been the fifth album that I got into by then, because I heard a couple albums from like the middle. Then I heard their first album, and then I heard this one. So this was probably like the fourth or fifth Korn album that I listened to, and I bought this when I was 16, I think. Bought it used at FYE. No. I bought it new. NuMetal. Initially, this was one of my least favorite Korn albums. Initially, years ago, I thought that as fun as Twist is, I still thought it was kind of a weird way to start an album. I used to not like Chai or Chi so much. I thought the chorus was weird, the way he sang. So I dig a hole, you know. The only songs that I thought were really good back in the day were Swallow, Cunt, and Adidas. Oh, and Ass Itch. So 4 solid tracks is what I used to think of this album. Years later, as I get back into NuMetal and loving it and re-listening to Korn, this album is insanely good. It's not my favorite Korn album. And when you're ranking all 11 Korn albums, you know, once Serenity of Suffering comes out, I think they'll be at 11 now. 11 albums. This is their second. It came out in 1996. And the biggest singles off this album were Adidas and Twist. And I guess No Place to Hide. Those would be the ones that made it to the greatest hits, I think. But this album isn't really known for its singles. Maybe it is, I don't know. But the track Adidas kind of started to put them on the fast track to fame, which would later be exponentialized and Follow the Leader, which I will talk about in the next video. But you better believe that when I put on my Adidas kicks and my pants and my hat, that plays in my head. I'm rambling. And I'm not recording this at the same time I recorded the first video, putting on a shirt to make it look like I recorded it all at once in that same drunk mindset while I'm recording NuMetal thoughts. Years later, when I got back into NuMetal, even though I've always been into it, but like my interest spiked again, and that's why I'm trying to write it in my band Raptor Riot. This album is much better. It really grows on you. There's a lot of albums that I listened to over the years that I like a lot more today. A lot of bands I like a lot more today as an adult than I did when I was a teenager or a kid. Excuse me. Like, my dad tried to show me Alice in Chains when I was a kid or a teenager. Didn't understand it, didn't appreciate it, but now I love them. Same deal with this album. I used to think this was one of their worst albums. Super inconsistent, super boring, but this album is just like their first one, but more evil, more polished, and just slightly more experimental. But the riffs, to me, they come across, as a guitarist, the riffs seem heavier. This album has one of my all-time favorite Korn songs on it, Lost. When I was younger, I totally forgot about that song existing. Somehow that song got past me. I would just listen to Twist and Chi and be like, somehow forget about Lost, and then just go into Swallow, which back in the day I thought Swallow was like one of the best songs. Still think it is. But Lost is such a heavy, perfectly evil song where he's not screaming, he's like whisper singing. Like these heavy ass guitar riffs are playing that are just heavy with dissonance and like weird tremolo picking in the middle of the bar, and he's just like silently singing. I think he screams a little bit during the bridge. But anyway, long story short, Lost is one of their best songs, probably the best song on this album. Lost, Swallow, I think Porno Creep and Mr. Rogers are both great songs. Wait, Porno Creep is just that little interlude. Yeah, basically songs that I didn't appreciate as much back then that I love now would be like Mr. Rogers, No Place to Hide, and I like Chai a lot more now. But yeah, just the song Lost and Swallow put this album towards the higher end of the spectrum. I like this album maybe slightly more than their first album, so the way I said I'd put their self-titled towards the middle, towards the top, I'd probably put Life is Peachy just above that. But again, my ranking of Korn albums is ever-changing, and every album has something to offer, but their original raw stuff, like their first 3-4 albums, they're in a league of their own. So yeah, to those who haven't heard Life is Peachy, strongly recommend it. It's got Adidas on it. It's a NuMetal staple. And if you want to hear some of Korn's most raw and heavy shit, listen to Lost and Swallow. Fuck yes. You know, that exhale he does, like the first 20 seconds of Swallow is like the heaviest shit you're gonna hear in your life. Wicked, Korn is known in some of their earlier stuff, mostly Follow the Leader, for having random tracks that feature rappers. I think Wicked is actually one of their weaker tracks that features a rap artist. I thought in Follow the Leader and when they had Nas and Take a Look in the Mirror, those were better features, but Wicked's still a solid track. Kill You is a good heavy ender, but in a way, this album is like Issues, where it's got a bunch of interludes. Twist, we'll call that an interlude. It's a 50-second song. It's not an interlude, but it's like an intro. Twist, Porno Creep, Lowrider, yeah. A lot of interludes. If an album has more than 13, 14 tracks, you better expect a couple of short tracks. Otherwise, you're not going to have a bunch of long tracks. But I'm rambling. Second time around, Life is Peachy is a lot better than I thought it was. And I feel the same way about a couple of other Korn albums. Albums that I didn't like as much back then, I love now. And on the next video, I'm going to talk about my favorite Korn album and how that one was also kind of underrated to me back then. This has been Jay Dennis with Talking NuMetal. We're on Korn's second album. We're going to go all the way up to Serenity of Suffering. That's going to be a lot of fun because that album sounds great so far. Talk to you next time.